For millennia, the horizon was the edge of the world. But what if it wasn't an edge, but just the curve of a sphere? To know the world is round is one thing. To prove it by sailing all the way around is a challenge of an entirely different magnitude. This is the story of how we learned to sail the sphere. The idea wasn't new. Ancient Greek philosophers like Pythagoras and Aristotle had already deduced the Earth's spherical shape by observing its curved shadow on the moon during a lunar eclipse and watching ships disappear hull first over the horizon. By the 3rd century BC, Eratosthenes had even calculated the planet's circumference with shocking accuracy. But this was all theory, a dream locked away by the immense, terrifying power of the open ocean. It would take a convergence of political ambition, economic greed, and technological grit to finally launch an expedition that wouldn't just travel to a distant land, but would keep going until it returned home from the opposite direction. That moment arrived in 1519. A Spanish expedition conceived by the Portuguese navigator Ferdinand Magellan set sail with a clear strategic goal: find a westward route to the lucrative Spice Islands. At the time, Spain was locked in a bitter rivalry with Portugal. The Treaty of Tordesillas had essentially split the globe between them, barring Spain from the known eastern route around Africa. Magellan's daring plan to sail west was a high-stakes geopolitical gamble. On September 20th, 1519, a fleet of 5 ships, known as carracks, departed with around 270 men. These were the workhorses of the Age of Discovery, 3 or 4 masted wooden ships with high, rounded sterns, built for stability and cargo space, not for comfort. The voyage was an odyssey of unimaginable hardship. They faced mutinies, starvation, and the constant fear of the unknown. After navigating the treacherous strait at the tip of South America, which would later bear his name, Magellan entered a vast, deceptively calm ocean. He named it the Mar Pacifico, the Pacific Ocean. But this peace was a curse. The fleet sailed for nearly 100 days without sight of land. Their supplies dwindled. Men ate leather, sawdust, and rats. Scurvy ravaged the crew. Tragically, Magellan, the visionary behind the quest, never saw its completion. He was killed in a skirmish in the Philippines in 1521. Command eventually fell to Juan Sebastian Elcano, a Basque navigator. Against all odds, Elcano guided the lone surviving ship, the Victoria, across the Indian Ocean, around the Cape of Good Hope, and finally, back to Spain. On September 6, 1522, almost 3 years after they left, the Victoria limped into port. Of the original 270 men, only 18 survived. This single voyage was a watershed moment. It was the first empirical proof that our world was a sphere. It revealed the true, immense scale of the Pacific Ocean and gave us a more accurate measure of our planet's size. It wasn't just a discovery. It was the beginning of a new era. Others followed, like Sir Francis Drake, who became the first commander to survive a full circumnavigation. But how did they even do it? It wasn't just bravery, it was science. To navigate a sphere, you must know where you are on it. This means finding your latitude and longitude. Latitude, your position north or south of the equator, was relatively straightforward. In the northern hemisphere, the height of Polaris, the North Star, above the horizon, directly corresponds to your latitude. But longitude, your east-west position, was the great puzzle of the age. The Earth rotates 360 degrees every 24 hours, or 15 degrees per hour. So, to find your longitude, you need to compare your local time, which you can find from the sun's position, with the time at a known reference point, like Greenwich, England. The problem was keeping that reference time. Pendulum clocks were useless on a rocking ship. The solution required 2 revolutionary inventions. First was the sextant. Developed in the 18th century, this instrument allowed a navigator to measure the angle between the sun or a star and the horizon with incredible precision, even on a moving deck. Its system of mirrors was a huge leap forward. The second, and arguably more important, piece of the puzzle was the marine chronometer. English clockmaker John Harrison dedicated his life to creating a timepiece rugged and accurate enough to keep precise time at sea, unaffected by the ship's motion or changes in temperature. His invention solved the longitude problem and transformed navigation from a dangerous art into a reliable science. Of course, you also needed a ship capable of the journey. The early carracks and their successors, the galleons, were robust vessels. A key innovation was the lateen sail, a triangular sail that allowed ships to sail closer to the wind, giving them far greater maneuverability than relying solely on square sails that were best with the wind directly behind them. But even with the best ship and the finest instruments, a sailor is at the mercy of the elements. A successful circumnavigation has always been about understanding and harnessing the planet's natural systems. Think of the Earth's atmosphere as a giant engine. Driven by the sun, this engine creates predictable wind patterns. The trade winds, blowing consistently from east to west near the equator, were the superhighways of the age of sail. These are the winds that powered Columbus across the Atlantic and enabled Magellan's fleet to cross the Pacific. Further from the equator you find the westerlies, blowing from west to east. To sail eastward around the globe, especially in the southern hemisphere, you rely on the infamous roaring 40s and furious 50s, strong, uninterrupted winds that circle the bottom of the world. But not all wind patterns are helpful. Near the equator lies a region sailors call the doldrums. Here, the trade winds from both hemispheres converge, creating a zone of light, unpredictable winds, and sudden, violent thunderstorms. Getting trapped in the doldrums could mean weeks of agonizingly slow progress, with supplies dwindling in the sweltering heat. Just as the air has its highways, so do the oceans. Vast, slow-moving rivers of water called currents, driven by wind, temperature, and the Earth's rotation, form massive rotating systems called gyres. A skilled navigator doesn't fight these currents, they ride them. The Gulf Stream in the Atlantic, the Kuroshio in the Pacific, these are the ocean's great conveyor belts. A well-planned route uses them to gain a massive speed advantage. Fast forward to today, and the spirit of circumnavigation is alive and well, but the technology has undergone a radical transformation. The focus has shifted from mere survival to the relentless pursuit of speed. Modern circumnavigation vessels are not ships, they are racing machines. Built from advanced composites like carbon fiber and aramid, they are impossibly light and incredibly strong. Their sails are rent canvas. They're often molded from composites into perfect airfoils. The most dramatic innovation is the hydrofoil. These are underwater wings. As the boat gains speed, the foils generate enough lift to raise the entire hull out of the water, drastically reducing drag. In races like the Vendée Globe, a solo, non-stop round-the-world race, these flying boats can hit speeds over 40 miles per hour, slicing across the waves. Navigation has also entered the digital age. While celestial navigation is still a crucial backup skill, modern sailors rely on the Global Positioning System, or GPS, for positioning accurate to within a few feet. But it's more than that. They use sophisticated weather routing software. These programs analyze massive amounts of data, multiple weather forecasts, ocean current data, and the boat's specific performance characteristics to run complex algorithms that calculate the absolute fastest route. It's a constant game of high-stakes chess with the planet's weather systems. These boats are also marvels of self-sufficiency. In a non-stop race, everything you need must be carried or generated. Power comes from diesel engines, but increasingly from renewables. Hydrogenerators, small turbines dropped into the water, use the boat speed to generate electricity. Solar panels add to the supply, powering navigation instruments, autopilots, and communication gear. And fresh water? Instead of heavy tanks, they use water makers. These devices use reverse osmosis, forcing seawater at high pressure through a membrane that blocks salt, turning the endless ocean into drinkable water. Yet for all this incredible technology, the heart of the challenge remains human. The psychological toll of spending months alone at sea is immense. Solo sailors battle extreme isolation, loneliness, and the constant pressure of being solely responsible for their own survival. Sleep deprivation is a constant state, managed in short naps between checking systems and trimming sails. Studies of solo sailors show a range of effects, from anxiety and cognitive disturbances to profound personal growth and increased resilience. The physical demands are just as relentless. Hoisting massive sails and performing repairs in the frigid, violent conditions of the Southern Ocean requires tremendous strength and endurance. The story of global circumnavigation, from Magellan's battered wooden ship to today's flying carbon fiber machines, is a perfect microcosm of human progress. It is a story of our evolving understanding of the planet, a testament to our ability to harness science and engineering to conquer impossible challenges. At its core, it is the story of an enduring human spirit, a spirit that drives us to sail the sphere, to push beyond the horizon, and in doing so, to better understand our world and ourselves.